Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Coaching from the Couch. This is your weekly DMV Sports Update. And I am your host, CWall, checking in as I do each and every single week to bring you the latest and greatest information on the hot topics happening in DMV sports. This is where you can get all of your comments, questions, maybe even some of your frustrations, perhaps, discussed and talked about in a live forum. While we're getting started into the conversation, first we have to go through a few housekeeping items. This is a live Bowie television recording. Everything we say and do here will more than likely end up on your television screens. Verizon Channel 11, Comcast Xfinity Channel 77 each and every single day from 1:30 to 2:30 and on the weekends during the noon hour. Make sure you all are also following Bowie Television on YouTube at Bowie TV at BCMC TV Maryland, where it's a ton of content. It's not just this show. It's all of the shows, well, not all, but most of the shows, the great content that we have coming on the television channel, we also have on YouTube as well. If you have joined in from Facebook, hit that love button and make sure you share this show with your DMV sports loving family and friends. If you've joined from YouTube, make sure you hit the bell, drop a fire emoji so that I know that you're here, and you can still share this link with your DMV sports loving family and friends. And everybody, why don't you say hello to Mama Waller and Papa Waller? Because if you say hello to me, you got to say hello to my parents. So make sure you say hello to Mama Waller and Papa Waller too while you're hitting that love button and sharing this show with your DMV sports loving family and friends. So, in terms of hot topics, even though we cover, like right now, I'm mostly, you all know, CWall, I spend most of my time with the Washington Commanders and the Washington Wizards. That's where I'm physically at those games, events, practices, you name it, on a regular basis. I do know, and we do cover at Bowie TV, the Baltimore Ravens as well. So I know they have a big game tonight against the Cincinnati Bengals. So I'm going to keep you. I'm not going to keep you all. I'm not going to keep you all too long. I don't think. It depends on how you all do. It depends on how the conversation goes. You never know. The conversation starts getting too good, then you already know that, hey, maybe we are going to stay on right up until that game kickoff. So don't forget, love button, share the show with your DMV sports loving family and friends. We're definitely going to get into the Wizards. Wizards fans, check in. And of course, we're going to get into the Washington Commanders. First up, the Washington Wizards. So, Wizards fans, Commanders fans, this conversation is absolutely for you. It seems like I've been talking to you all a lot lately because, like I said, that's where I spend the bulk of my time. So, yes, let's have a conversation. Why don't we? Wizards fans, how are you holding up? The Washington Wizards are 2-9 right now. And while you're sharing in the chat how you're holding up, I also want to know, did you think the Wizards would be 2-9? How did really how did you think? Because I know I've given you all a pep talk. I'm like, hey, this is the year to temper your expectations. This is a year to keep it light, keep yourself as stress-free as possible. If you go to a game, go and just enjoy the environment. Don't necessarily go be and have a lot of expectations. If you go, District E, right in Gallery Place, has a lot of pregame activities, a lot of fun things happening. So maybe go there, before the game for pregame activities. When you're at the game, just enjoy yourself. but I really want to know some of your thoughts. Did you think they would be 2-9? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Did I think they would be 2-9? No, I didn't. And as I'm sitting here talking to you all, I can still say that there are a couple of games I would have thought, based on what we've seen so far, and actually based on what has happened in these games, they could have at least won 5. That's what I'm thinking. I think they could have at least won 5. There's 3 hanging out there, 3 that they lost, and we're still trying to figure. Well, we can probably, after going back and watching, we can probably figure out how they lost for sure. But 2-9, that's not good. It's bad. And they right now are sitting at almost the worst record in the league. The only team that has the absolute worst record is the Detroit Pistons. So I think they could have gotten 5. They've only gotten 2. And if you're just tuning in, make sure you hit that love button and share this show. You are watching from the Culture from the Couch series, the weekly DMV sports update. And I'm your host, CWall. We're talking about the Wizards and we're talking about the Commanders. So you absolutely want to get your Wizards and Commanders favorite folks locked into this live discussion to talk all things Wizards and Commanders. I'm going to share a bit from the press conference last night with the Wizards took on the Dallas Mavericks. That was not necessarily a game that I was expecting them to win. And I know that some people are like, okay, well, Kyrie Irving did not play, so they still should have, gave it a much more effort than was there. But I mean, I wasn't necessarily expecting this game to be a win because Luka gonna be Luka. And even though Luka was still Luka, he actually was not the top scorer of the game. It was actually Tim Hardaway Jr. So here's a snippet of the press conference with head coach Wes Unseld Jr. and a snippet of Wizards rookie Bilal Coulibaly. I absolutely want to see and just understand and know what your comments are. What are your comments on what coach is saying and what he is sharing in this press conference? This snippet, or is a snippet, but it's a video. This is around 4 minutes long. So Wizards fans, for sure, drop in the chat what you think about what coach is saying in the press conference pieces that I'm sharing here. Check it out.
Our games tonight seemed like it regressed. What did you see out there, and were you satisfied with the effort?
I thought that first quarter, we weren't, I didn't think we approached it the right way in terms of, little coverage confusion, some communication, some transition. Obviously, we missed a lot of, looking back, I think pretty good looks, particularly from 3. Landry, Corey, JP, you're pretty good shooters. A lot of those turn into runouts. And so that affects, of course, your transition defense, your overall defense. At times, I think we did some good things, and they forced them to make tough shots over contest. We could live with some of that. But that first quarter, the pace in which they played, it was unique for them. They got up and down. You got them lifted early, picked up the foul, and it's going to happen. Just having the discipline to stay down. And he's a heck of a player. He sells it. He gets everybody. That's a learning experience. You have to figure out how to be disciplined, be the second jumper, show your hands. He's a master, raking through and drawing fouls and free throws. So it's an experience for him. I think he had some good moments, and then some moments where maybe the youth came shining through.
What have you made of the offensive start to the season that JP has had?
Not a ton. I think it's going to take some time to get a rhythm. I said this before, it's a new space for him. And he's, 1 if not 2 on the scouting report. So he's seeing a little bit more attention he's probably normally used to. That takes an adjustment.
Losses, but growth. What do you see growth in a night like this?
For certain stretches there was some growth. I thought we did some good things. Look at quarters 2, 3, and 4, we were +2. So the first quarter is kind of what did us in. That's not a silver lining. Those are the numbers. So the fact that we were able to compete, kind of claw our way back into it, the differential was done. But I thought we did some good things, in quarters 2, 3, 4.
Wes, when you're talking about Jordan, I feel like you can see with your eyes where he is adjusting and learning to that, but his numbers are actually pretty kind of standard for what they've been throughout his career. What does success from him look like then? Are you hoping to see him obviously increase his numbers, or can you kind of give me the metric?
Well, I think just more the overall efficiency. He's gonna score, and for a guy who works incessantly, on his shot, it's like you want it for him, because he puts in so much time. And it'll happen. I think it's just more once he gets a rhythm, gets one game under him, sees the ball go in at a high clip. I think that'll open things up for him.
There have been moments of individual good man defense. What do you feel like isn't translating to the team defense aspect?
Well, some of it is the one-on-one piece. To your point, sometimes it's good. We're not always in the right spot at the right time off the ball, which leads to certain things. Tonight, I think transition was a bit of an issue, and some of the offensive rebound. Not a ton, but they capitalized on most of those opportunities.
Playing for each other, we were not in the rotations, we were not respecting what we were supposed to do, so that was it.
And you got a pretty big test guard in Luka Doncic tonight. What was it like going up against him?
I always love this game. Playing against a great player like that is always, good. Learning a lot of things, and hope I do better playing in the next game against that.
You were able to get a few stops against him. Does that build your confidence as a defensive player?
Yeah, of course. Every time I see a superstar on me, I'm trying to get a stop, and it helps me a lot.
If you are just tuning in, you are now watching from the Coaching from the Couch series, the weekly DMV Sports Update. I'm your host, CWall, and this is a live Bowie television recording. In this space, we talk all things DMV sports. This show is dedicated to the 2-9 Wizards, because I feel like I have to say that, and then the Washington Commanders, which we'll get to the Commanders in a moment. If you just tune in, hit that love button and share this show with your DMV sports loving family and friends. If you're watching from Facebook and if you're watching from YouTube, hit the bell, say hello so that I know that you're here. I want to go back to what rookie Bilal Coulibaly just said. And he basically said, we're not respecting what we're supposed to do. Way to make it plain. Listen, if there are certain things that you are supposed to be doing and you already know we're not doing it, we're not respecting it, we're not where we're supposed to be, that's for certain one explanation to what is transpiring. Now, you all have heard me talk about the fact that this Wizards leadership team, we all know they're going through a rebuild. They're going through a rebuild. They're going through a restructuring. So when those things happen, you're going to see what you're seeing. It's not going to feel good. Change is hard. It's bad. It's ugly. It's unpleasant for a lot of the time. It really is. At the same token, if there are things that you should be doing and you as a team, the team, are not doing those things, well then, there you have it. As the season goes on, and this is with any sport, it gives teams time to continue to build that camaraderie, that chemistry, just understand their place. This is a team of various role players that this front office is pulled together, and they don't. It still remains to be seen who is the leader, right? I don't clearly see it. I mean, we can say, okay, is it Kyle Kuzma? Is it Jordan Poole? I mean, Kyle Kuzma, from a scoring perspective, that is the Wizard who is scoring the most points. That is the returning Wizard, or one of the returning Wizards that, was once a part of a big three, what they were calling him, right? When he was with Bradley Beal and Kristaps Porzingis. So he's returning. So you would imagine that Kuz is the leader, perhaps. But the reality is, you can tell they're still figuring it out. They're absolutely still figuring it out. Now, hey, there's absolutely some instances. I'm going to go back to those 3 games. One being the Charlotte Hornets last Friday, the Toronto Raptors earlier this week, the Brooklyn Nets earlier this week, where the Wizards absolutely had a chance. They had a chance. They were actually doing the things that they should be doing. And there was a shift. There was a change, whether that had been a lineup change, whether that had just been a change in perhaps what Koulibaly is talking about, which is you're not respecting what you're supposed to be doing. And these teams, as in any sport, you start showing your age in terms of this being a young team, and you start showing your age, the veterans are going to show theirs as well, right? They're going to show, we know what to do in these situations. The game is long. We know what to do in these situations. We know how to get an edge on. We know how to get a comeback going. We understand those things. You can't get too comfortable. And I mentioned those 3 games because those were 3 games where the Wizards had a chance. I want to go back to the Hornets game, because I think this is a very important point. And Wizards fans, if you're still locked in, I want to know if you noticed this. I want to know if you noticed how the Wizards' tempo changed when DeLon Wright got hurt. Now, when DeLon Wright and Danilo Gallinari, I can't say it 12 times in a row. They go out of the game, the Hornets start to come back. They come back in the game, and they've got a handle on things defensively. DeLon Wright gets hurt, and there's for sure a void, such that in the after-game presser with the media, Coach Wes Unseld Jr. admitted and said in that moment when DeLon got hurt, he wasn't sure what to do. And I appreciated that very honest and transparent answer. I remember last year, former general manager Tommy Shepard, in his end of season media availability, when we asked him about, of course, last year's team, there was high hopes for that Wizards team. Of course, we know they didn't even make the playoffs. And we asked former general manager Tommy Shepard, what was the difference in the Wizards season? Where did it happen? And he said it was when DeLon Wright got hurt. He said those 46 games, they didn't have DeLon. That was a key differentiator for the team. Talking throughout the season with team members, they all said the same thing. It was a recurring theme about the importance of DeLon's veteran defensive skill set and just his knack of knowing the game, and him not being there was a void. So how about this? If it was a void last year, right? I mean, nobody's expecting to get hurt. Let me be very clear. But if you know you brought DeLon back, nobody's made a steal, right? Injuries do happen, okay? Perhaps it would be wise to either have a solid backup plan for DeLon Wright, or have either a solid backup plan, a contingency plan, something for a DeLon Wright, because you already know last year, because you said it repeatedly, that you missed DeLon Wright from rotation. You missed his defensive capability. So here we are again, another year. And this is now something, it has happened, but you should have learned from last year. So that's one of my key takeaways. And Wizards fans, I want to know if you caught on to that as well. We went through this last year. And if you knew that that was a lesson learned, that you did not have a contingency plan when DeLon Wright goes down, then I want to see the contingency plan, because it happened last year. Again, he's not made of steel. Injuries happen. But if you know that that skill set is something that is critical and a critical piece to your rebuilding structure, then therefore you should ensure that somebody else within your roster is able to display that. And if you don't have it, that's a problem. If you do have it and it needs to be cultivated and inspired and empowered, then that's where the player development comes in at. This is why we have the staff, and we've created an environment where it is a focus on player development. And there you go. Next person up needs to be ready. That's my spiel on the Wizards, because that just happened last week. And I said, I want to see if this challenge gets fixed, because I remember the same thing happening last year and it being a recurring theme that without DeLon, we are missing a key piece. You have the capability. You may have it in Bilal, right? I mean, is anybody going to ever play Johnny Davis? What can he do? That was the first round pick last year, right? Wasn't it? That was last year, wasn't it? Yes. So it's time to really assess, okay, understanding that this is rebuild. And I appreciate this comment here. It's not dysfunction. This is not a Wizards. This is not a dysfunctional Wizards team. I do want to be very clear about that. And here's why. It's a rebuild. They told you months ago they were starting from the beginning. It's a whole new step. This is new president, new general manager, new team. It's a rebuild. And Delonte, you may have missed my comment earlier. Rebuilds hurt. Rebuilds are challenging. I've been saying it since Tommy Shepard got fired. I said, oh, here we go. The moment everybody said they wanted is here. Because if Tommy Shepard gets fired, that means Brad is up out of here. They're officially going to start over. And with a start over, I said, this is where Wizards fans get caught up, because they're not going to understand that this is going to look like and feel like the last 40 years. That's a rebuild. That's what it is. But at least now, everybody can put a name to it. So it's not dysfunction. It's restructuring. It's rebuilding. You got a new general manager. You got a new president. You gotta bring people in. That's what it is. So move away from dysfunction. It's going to feel like and look like the other years, but be very clear. Because one thing about this leadership staff, they have been clear from the beginning. This is going to be hard. It is going to look bad a lot of the times. It's going to be, woo, everybody get together and pray. But that's a rebuild, and that's a restructuring. And as I've said on the show from the very beginning, this is going to be a rough one. Now, even with it being a rough one, even with it being a restructuring, even with a rebuild, I am expecting and looking to see, because if I go to practice and if I'm at a game And I want to see, because DeLon got hurt last year, and this was the thing. So now I'm seeing something from pre-rebuild. I'm seeing something from last year happen again this year. And I'm going to say, well, did you learn anything from last year? Because this was a problem last year and it hasn't been fixed. This is not a new issue. This is something, and I'm not talking, let me be very clear. I'm not saying wins, loss. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the contingency plan for a DeLon Wright type of skill set. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. What is the contingency plan? What is your plan B, C, and D? If you know that that's a critical asset, you went through this last year. You knew you needed them. 46 games you talked about, the 46 without DeLon. Now here you are without DeLon, and it's the same mistakes again. Now see, that's when I have to address it. That's when it's like, okay, I understand. I absolutely understand rebuilding, restructuring. But I'm absolutely going to have to also address when I'm seeing something from last year that I don't believe we should see this year. Hope that helps a bit. Wizards take on the Knicks at home. They take on the Bucks on Monday. So we shall see what happens.